Part 31. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 301. The next morning, two figures appeared outside the Shuiyu Palace. The former was wearing a bright red tight dress, half-covered, cool style, and a piece of white jade boldly expressed the spirit of the elves' love of freedom. Sexy and charming but not vulgar. The latter was wearing a white dress, wearing a crown, holding a scepter, and looking nervous. It was Moira and the elf queen Atna. Yesterday, Lin Suiying invited them to the Shuiyu Palace as guests. They came for the Eye of Prophecy. Moira also heard about Li Zili. She thought it would be difficult to deal with this matter, but she didn't expect that there was a great god behind Su Xian. I don't know who it is. In short, that battle made Su Xian so magical that no one dared to mess with this guy again. When thinking of Su Xian, Moira couldn't help but sigh in her heart. She had seen countless people, but she didn't expect that she had completely misjudged Su Xian. She could only see a vast chaos about Su Xian's fate. Xiao Suiying. Seeing Lin Suiying, Moira smiled. Speaking of which, she had known Xiao Suiying for so long, but this was her first time to visit Shuiyu Palace. Moira, you are finally here, please come in. Lin Suiying greeted her warmly. Moira was willing to help sit in the palace, which was an extra layer of protection for Zili. She looked at Atna next to her and smiled slightly. The queen of the elf, please come in too. Greetings to the king of Shuiyu. Even though she was now the queen of the elf tribe, Atna was still a little shy in front of Lin Suiying. She didn't dare to look her in the eye, and her heart was beating fast. And she was a little envious. She soon saw another welcoming figure, standing closely with Lin Suiying. Su Xian also saw Atna. He didn't expect Moira to bring Atna with her. Wasn't this deliberately making trouble? Su Xian, long time no see. Atna took the initiative to greet her. Her eyes just glanced at Su Xian and then moved away, without any loss of composure. Long time no see, Atna. Su Xian smiled faintly, just as relaxed and natural as greeting an old friend. While the two greeted each other, Moira's eyes were looking at the flower bed next to the small courtyard, or more accurately, the sapling in the center of the flower bed. This tree. She was shocked. The aura is stronger than the complete eternal ancient tree. Just by looking at the tree, she seemed to see a bizarre world in full bloom and the vast sea of life surging. She saw a world in the vast chaotic universe, where a tree supported the sky and the earth. Xiao Suiying, Moira couldn't help asking, that tree is. Are you talking about it? Lin Suiying smiled, this guy is Su Xian's pet, and I don't know where he came from. Su Xian's pet. Moira looked at Su Xian in a daze. It was the first time she lost her composure like this. The sapling in the flower bed obviously refreshed her cognition. I thought the eternal ancient tree, known as the lifeblood of the elves, was the strongest plant, but I didn't expect it to be inferior to Su Xian's pet plant. This guy. He really refreshed his worldview again and again. As the queen of the elf, Atna also felt that the natural atmosphere here was even stronger than the ancestral land of the elves before it was ruined. It's Su Xian again. How much else did this man who completely occupied her life hide? Atna took a deep breath and tried to keep herself calm. Originally, she and Her Majesty Moira were thinking about taking Lin back and practicing near the eternal ancient tree. Now it seems that they are wrong. There is no place more suitable for Lin to practice than here. Don't stand there, everyone sit down. The world tree is so strong, Su Xian couldn't explain the origin, just laughed twice and shouted to the house, Lin, come out quickly, Her Majesty Moira is coming. There was a sound of thump 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 in the house. Lin ran out, Her Majesty Moira. And Atna. Lin was very excited to see the two. Su Xian smiled and said, Lin, your master and his wife have to go out for some time, So you stay in the palace and study with Her Majesty Moira. She will teach you prophecy. Really? Lin was looking forward to it. I grew up listening to the legend of Her Majesty Moira since I was a child. Now the legendary great being came to my home to teach me personally. What a happy thing it is. Of course it's true. Moira gently stroked Lin's forehead, her eyes were rare and gentle. Lin will definitely be an excellent prophet in the future. Thank you for the compliment, Your Majesty. Lin's heart was full of pride. What else could be more recognized than the compliment of the greatest prophet of the elves? Xiao Suiying, Su Xian, there is something I want to discuss with you. Moira stood up and looked at the young couple. I want to move in next to you, can you give me a price? Of course, if I can live in Shuiya Palace, it would be even better. Lin Suiying. Su Xian. The young couple was stunned. No one expected Moira to make such a request. Su Xian did not dare to express his opinion. He supported his wife's best friend to move in. He could not say a word, otherwise he would be wrong to breathe. I know this will make it difficult for you. Moira said helplessly, but that thing is too attractive to us. You will never understand how deeply the elves love this breath. Even if I am a demigod, I am no exception. If you are willing, just name a price, I can buy a piece of land next to the Shuiya Palace. After that, Moira looked at Su Xian closely. The world tree can be said to be a super-evolved version of the eternal ancient tree. Living in this environment for a long time can even make the blood of the elves evolve. It is even possible to reproduce the glory of the ancient elf god. Otherwise, with her identity, she would not say such abrupt words, because this matter is so important that she can put down her face for it. Su Xian looked serious and looked to the side. Suiying, what do you think? Lin Suiying smiled. Of course, as for the price, it seems that Su Xian and I are not short of anything. We have what we need. Su Xian, do you need anything? No matter how good the relationship is, Lin Suiying will not let Moira live for free. If she doesn't accept something, Moira will probably feel uncomfortable. But she really doesn't need anything. On the contrary, Su Xian has many disciples, so maybe they need something. Su Xian pondered. The elves have a deep heritage and many good things, so there are a few things I can ask about. 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 302. Su Xian was in deep thought. Among the disciples, Zhang Mu had already integrated the complete demon god body and dragon god bone. He was in the abyss and had a great opportunity. Xiaoli was very involved, needless to say. Qing Qing had already integrated the 10,000 poison body, and his main and secondary professions were progressing in parallel. Xiao Kong received the inheritance of King Dingai, and awakened the fighting saint body by himself. Constant fighting was Xiaokong's greatest opportunity. As for Lao, his path was basically fixed, and he also had the 8 desolate war god body, so he didn't need an opportunity. Now only Xiaoliu Su Maiwang and Xiaoqi Nicolin need an opportunity to strengthen themselves and quickly advance. Your Majesty Moira, I want to ask, do you know the original spirit ancestral blood? Su Xian asked. The original spirit ancestral blood is exactly what Xiaoliu Su Maiwang needs. Xiaoliu belongs to the original spirit clan, and his life form is extremely special. They cannot practice most of the skills and secrets of the Blue Star professional system. Things like marrow washing potions are useless to Xiaoliu. According to the observation of the eye of the Divine Mentor, the only thing known to improve Xiaoliu's physique is the illusory blood of the original spirit. Original spirit blood. Moira frowned and thought, I seem to have seen records about ancestral blood in the ancient scrolls of the elves, but the elves did not collect it. Su Xian was surprised. The elves really have a deep foundation and have records of everything. As long as there is a record, there is a way to find it, which is better than looking for it blindly without knowing anything. Moira said, the original spirit race is a very special race. If we divide it more broadly, the weapon spirits of high-end mythical quality weapons also belong to the original spirit race. No one knows how the original spirit ancestor was born, but in many scrolls left in ancient times, there is indeed a special original spirit. They are called Chaos Original Spirits. The crystals formed after their death are immortal and float in the vast chaotic universe. This crystal is called Ancestral Blood. Su Xian was thoughtful. I wonder if Your Majesty Moira can help calculate where there is an opportunity for the original spirit Ancestral Blood. The prototype of the chaotic body evolved slowly. Now it has only evolved to 48%, which is more than half away from the complete body. Whether for the disciples or for himself, Su Xian must find the ancestral blood. I can help you deduce. Moira smiled and said, but I also have a request. She was originally negotiating a deal with Su Xian, there was nothing to be embarrassed about. As long as the interests are consistent and both parties are willing, they can talk. Your Majesty, please speak. I want to transplant the eternal ancient tree here. Moira said, here, the growth rate of the eternal ancient tree will be much faster, which is very important for our entire elves. Deal. Su Xian agreed without hesitation. Transplanting the eternal ancient tree here will not harm Dingai King City and Shuiya Palace, but will only make it more prosperous and safer. This is a win-win situation. With Moira and the elves here, Xyli's safety is further guaranteed. Deal. Moira was also very happy. In this case, I will perform the great prophecy for you now to help you speculate the whereabouts of the original spirit ancestor blood, but if the original spirit ancestor blood does not exist in this world, then it is not my fault. That's natural. The great prophecy can only find a vague direction in the vast unknown, and cannot determine everything. Moira waved her hand gently. In front of her, an ancient book appeared. It was obviously simulated, but it looked extremely real, like a book handed down from generation to generation that recorded the ancient civilization. Su Xian watched with interest. This was the first time he saw Moira use her abilities. He felt that among all the demigods in the two worlds, Moira should be one of the strongest. Otherwise, in the initial war between the two worlds, Blue Star would not have been able to stop the decline with the help of Moira. In a war of that magnitude, without extraordinary combat power, relying on prophecy alone is definitely not enough. A breeze blew. Moira closed her eyes slightly, opened her arms, and her body floated up. Although she was wearing sexy and even slightly exposed clothes, her breath was extremely holy at this moment, and people could not have any evil thoughts. Confused life, the great natural gods will guide you to find the way home. Follow the guidance of nature. The fate intertwined in the vast chaos, the pious life prays to you, listen to the call of nature. She chanted the spell. The ancient book in front began to turn pages. The whole small courtyard fell into a strange state at this moment, and everyone felt that they followed Moira into the universe and stars in the endless void. The speed of turning the pages of the ancient book is getting faster and faster. The scepter on Moira's chest is shining. The light is scattered on the ancient book, as if an invisible big hand is writing something with light as ink. After a long time, the light dissipated. Moira slowly tiptoed to the ground, her beautiful eyes gradually opened, and a strange color flashed in her eyes. She raised her hand and touched the ancient book, and the ancient book suddenly trembled violently. The simulated page of the book was separated from the ancient book and gradually turned into a real object in Moira's hand. Immediately, the ancient book turned into clouds and smoke and drifted away. Here you go. Moira breathed a sigh of relief, sweat beads oozed from her forehead, pinched her waist and panted slightly. This job is more tiring than he imagined. Thank you. Su Xian took the materialized page of the book. His eyes swept over it, and there was very little information recorded on it, and some of it was even difficult to understand. Moira explained, According to the feedback from the Book of Prophecy, there is only one place in the entire Blue Star where the original spirit blood may exist, and that is the Twin Towers. Su Xian seemed to understand something. The entire Twin Towers land is desolate, and the only chance is the Tower of Delusion and the Tower of Death. And Xiao Lu himself is the Tower Spirit of the Tower of Delusion. If there is the original spirit blood in the Tower of Delusion, Xiao Lu must know it, then there is only one possibility left, the original spirit blood is in the Tower of Death. He still remembers that Xiao Lu called the Tower Spirit of the Tower of Death second sister, and the other party should have transformed into a human form earlier than him, and the spiritual intelligence is also higher. Maybe it's because the Tower Spirit of the Tower of Death swallowed the original spirit blood. Now his strength is qualified to go to the Tower of Death, and he can try it if he has the chance. But the first priority at the moment is to solve the forbidden area source of plague. Anything else? Moira smiled. Yes. Su Xian nodded. If possible, I also hope you can help me find some information about the yin-yang body. Moira waved her hand. You don't have to worry about this. I have been looking for news about the yin-yang body for a long time, but it is more difficult to find than the original spirit ancestral blood. She touched Lin's head. Lin is not only your disciple, but also the backbone of my elves in the future. I will train her well. Thank you. Su Xian clasped his fists and thanked him. Okay, you can go with peace of mind. Moira walked forward and hugged Lin Suiying. Xiao Suiying, it's hard to tell whether this trip will be good or bad. You must remember to be careful. If something happens, don't be stubborn. The most important thing is to protect yourself. Got it? Lin Suiying also knew the seriousness of the situation. Even Moira, a great prophet, said that it was hard to tell whether it would be good or bad, and this trip might be extremely difficult. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 303. The battlefield between the two worlds, the edge of the seventh line of defense. The Black Plague is spreading faster and faster, and now it has spread to thousands of miles outside the forbidden area. It seems that the Black Plague is more serious than we thought. Su Xian looked at the raging black rats in the distance with a solemn expression. He is now 1,500 miles away from the source of the forbidden plague, but some areas here have been infected by the Black Plague. Yes. Lin Suiying sighed. The other 3 forbidden areas have been broken, and the monsters in the depths of the 4th forbidden area must have sensed it long ago. It may be waiting for us. Just kill it. Su Xian's current strength has also made a qualitative leap compared to the absolute frozen soil, and he is not afraid of the source of the plague. What's more, he is immune to all poisons. What he is least afraid of is these empty things. The two continued on their way. Passing through the 100,000 green mountains ahead is the source of the forbidden plague. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. As they traveled, they were attacked by black rats from time to time, and there were also black bats, moths, and other mutant animals in the sky. Occasionally, they would encounter some higher life mutants. There were human beings and the myriad races of Lulan Star. For the two, these were not a threat and could be easily destroyed. It was not until the two crossed the 10,000 green mountains that they realized the seriousness of the matter. At the edge of the forbidden area, there were dense rats on the ground and dark birds and moths in the sky. They dyed the entire forbidden area into a weird and terrifying black. It seemed like a black ocean. In the forbidden area, there were no other colors, only endless mutant animals and mutants. Seeing this scene, even Lin Suiying's breathing became rapid, and the endless dark oppression made her feel suffocated for a moment. Even if these rats, birds, and moths have zero combat effectiveness, they are still an obstacle for them. Because along the way, they could feel that as long as they killed a mutant animal or mutant, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth would be polluted by the Black Plague. If all these things were destroyed, I am afraid that the source of the plague would completely become a dead and silent place. In that environment, their combat effectiveness would be infinitely weakened, and the monsters deep in the source of the plague would be infinitely strengthened. That situation was not what they wanted to see. But they had no choice. If they dragged on, the situation would only get worse. Alas, there is no way. Su Xian sighed, and at the same time, he raised the sleeve of his left hand, revealing his white arm, and stretched it to Lin Suiying. "Wife, take a bite." "What do you mean?" Lin Suiying turned her head away in disdain. "Bite it to prevent infection." Su Xian smiled and said, "Don't you understand what effect my blood has?" "No." Lin Suiying refused. "Why do you have to bite it?" Su Xian said calmly, "We are already an old couple, and it's not the first time." You're asking for a beating." Lin Suiying blushed, lowered her head and bit Su Xian's arm, leaving a circle of red teeth marks on it. "It hurts." Su Xian pulled his hand back and teased, "How does it taste?" "Humph." Lin Suiying didn't answer, drew out the Shuiyu sword and went far away. Su Xian followed with a smile, facing the source of the plague that no one dared to set foot on now. The two did not hesitate at all. When the two people's breath burst out, the mutant animals of the source of the plague also felt it, turning into an overwhelming black tide and sweeping over. Kill. Behind Su Xian, the Qinji sword pierced through. One sword for 100 miles. Even the blood and chi of the mutants were taken in by the Qinji sword and sucked clean. The flowing star meteorite knife exudes endless power. Puff. The knife flashed. Meteorites kept falling from the sky, and a hole was opened in the black tide. In terms of group killing ability, Su Xian is even better than Lin Suiying. Relatively speaking, Lin Suiying's fighting method is much more beautiful, killing people invisibly, and the mirror lake is revealed. Anyone who breaks into the mirror lake will be strangled. Blue lotus blooms. Every blue lotus will take away the lives of countless mutant animals when it blooms. The two turned into two streams of light and kept rushing in from the edge. As more and more mutants died, the environment of heaven and earth was completely dyed black. The plague filled the sky above the forbidden area, blocking all the light outside. The two felt that they could absorb less and less law energy and world power. What a strong plague! Su Xian was secretly surprised. He could feel the black virus crawling in his body, trying to mutate his body, but it was completely consumed by the chaotic breath in his blood. However, the black plague was already very strong, as it could make him feel the erosion. If the ordinary plague toxins were on him, he would be automatically destroyed before he even felt it. Lin Suiying was not so comfortable. In such an environment, as long as she took a breath, the black plague would take the opportunity to invade. She relied on a breath to get to where she is now. It was so vast here that they could not see the direction even when they deduced the secrets of heaven, nor did they know where the target place was. It was the same as the other three forbidden places. The means left by the predecessor to deal with the final monster were also hidden in the source of the plague. But now the plague virus is too strong, the law energy is weak, and the world power is scarce, so their perception of the target place is extremely vague. Suiying, I will open the way, and you will sense it with all your strength. The two had experienced so many life and death battles together, and they had a tacit understanding of cooperation. They knew what to do at this time. Okay, Lin Suiying nodded, retreated to Su Xian's side, gave up all defenses, entrusted her life to Su Xian, and then tried her best to sense the target point. 10,000 thunders. Heavenly Prison Lead. In terms of group killing moves, this is still Su Xian's best move. The 1,000 machine sword and the flowing star meteorite knife surrounded the thunder, constantly rotating, killing countless black mutants. The thunder continued to gather. Gather. Su Xian bit his finger and splashed blood, causing a touch of scarlet in the thunder. 9 5-clawed golden dragons flew out and merged with the thunder in the sky, turning into a larger thunder dragon. The area within 100 miles was shaken. Roar. Whether it was the golden dragon or the thunder, they had the effect of suppressing evil, and they forcibly opened up a space in the dark world. With the thunder column pouring down from the sky, the power of the law and the power of the world gradually became clear. Lin Suiying finally sensed the destination, which was northeast of where they were. In that place, there were not only what they were looking for, but also unknown horrors. I'm afraid the monster that controlled the Black Plague had already noticed their purpose. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 304. Go. Sensing the vague direction, the two immediately rushed to the destination. The stream of light streaked through the darkness. The deeper they went, the more serious the pollution of the Black Plague became, and the power of the law and the power of the world became extremely thin. After impacting for a distance, the Black Rat group gradually decreased. The two people looked more solemn. When they stepped into a certain realm, countless black mutants turned their heads and looked at them. Those mutants had deviated from the appearance of their original races and mutated into various hideous and terrifying monsters. They were also extremely powerful. There were tens of thousands of mutants with the aura of being comparable to the king. They made all kinds of weird and creepy calls and rushed towards the two people frantically. Facing this level of mutants, it was not easy for the two to deal with them, and a new round of war began. Su Xian's bracelet flickered. There was an additional breath of guidance in his perception, which was the light of the morning star. Mythical quality bracelet, the guidance of the morning star comes with the skill of insight into weaknesses. Even black mutants have vital points. With the guidance and assistance of morning star, Su Xian saw a little soul light in the body of the black mutant. Whoosh! The sword energy slashed horizontally. Puff! A marquee-level mutant was killed with one sword. After finding the vital point, Su Xian opened fire and took the initiative to kill into the mutant group. Wherever the sword light passed, the black mutants were cut down like weeds. Suiying, save your strength and follow me. This place is obviously much more restrictive for Lin Suiying than Su Xian. The thinness of the power of the law and the power of the world made it impossible for Lin Suiying's battle consumption to be replenished in time, but Su Xian was different. Even if it was the power contaminated by the Black Plague virus, he could still inhale it into his body unscrupulously. At the moment of inhalation, the chaotic breath in his body would purify the filth completely. At this moment, he also understood why the armies of the two worlds were so afraid of the Black Plague. It was really that the black mutants were too difficult to deal with. Not to mention the strong strength, the plague virus it carries may infect you if you are not careful during the battle. Compared with the other three forbidden areas, the threat of the Black Plague has reached its peak. Su Xian forcibly opened a path. Finally, they sensed the target point. The black mutants seemed to be a little afraid of this place. The closer they got to the target location, the fewer black mutants followed. But they still stayed outside the target point, and more black mutants were gathering. If they went out, they would be attacked crazily by the mutants. Fortunately, it was safe for the time being. Lin Suiying took a deep breath, and finally got some supplements, and her strength gradually recovered. Are you okay? Su Xian asked. Het. Lin Suiying suddenly raised her head and looked at him, her eyes turned white, and she rushed towards him and bit Su Xian's neck. Ah! Su Xian screamed. Lin Suiying pounced on her, using her hands and feet, and tossed for a long time. Su Xian's helpless voice sounded, "Have you had enough fun?" Lin Suiying's movements stopped abruptly, "So you've seen it a long time ago. I was wondering why you were so obedient to be bitten by me. It's boring." She jumped off Su Xian's back and tilted her head to the side. Actually, Su Xian suddenly said, although the Black Plague did not infect you, it still had some impact on you. Don't you think your behavior just now is not in line with your usual style? Lin Suiying was subconsciously angry, but suddenly woke up. Yes. Although she and Su Xian had played some fun games on weekdays, they were all in the dead of night when they were alone. In such a serious occasion, she never liked to joke. But today she seemed like a different person. If Su Xian hadn't reminded her, she wouldn't have realized it. Her behavior just now was clearly the kind of naive girlfriend in her teens would do. The Black Plague is really scary. Lin Suiying, who reacted, was still in shock. If it weren't for Su Xian's blood, I'm afraid she would have been infected invisibly. Don't worry too much. Su Xian smiled and said, with my mobile blood bag, you can suck as much as you want. Suck your head. Lin Suiying glared at him and walked quickly to the destination ahead. There was a black forest there, which looked extremely strange. The black fallen leaves covered the path in the forest. Lin Suiying picked up a fallen leaf and smelled it. It seems that the monster had long anticipated that the things here would pose a threat to him, and deliberately corroded this forest. Su Xian nodded. The trees here should have the function of purifying the Black Plague, right? Yes. Lin Suiying sighed. However, there is also a limit to purification. As the Black Plague became stronger and stronger, the trees here finally died. There should be some intact ones inside. The two walked in. If the entire forest was really corroded, the monster would have broken out of the seal long ago. Since the other party was still trapped in the seal, they still had hope. Going deeper into the forest, the black trees gradually decreased and showed a lush green color again. The two looked at the deepest part, where there was a huge ancient tree. The ancient tree exudes vitality and a strong power of purification. It is also connected to the soil of the entire forest and is the core of the forest. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At this moment, the sound of animals passing through the grass and trees came from the depths of the forest. Who? The two were shocked. Could it be that there are still enemies hiding in the forest? Those black mutants should not be able to enter, and the military of the two worlds cannot break in here to die. What on earth is making the noise? Su Xian is skilled and bold, so he went straight over. Don't come over. A voice suddenly came from inside. Human race. Su Xian was stunned. Why are there still humans hiding here? When the other party made a sound just now, he also felt the other party's breath, which was not very strong. At most, it can barely reach the threshold of being a marquis. The human race at this level should not be able to break in here. Who are you? Lin Suiying asked coldly. Regarding her plan, except Su Xian and Moira who knew part of it, no one else knew, including those demigods. I am. Ah. The other party suddenly made a crazy voice. Who am I? Who am I? Why am I here? Su Xian and Lin Suiying looked at each other. The next moment, the two men rushed towards the source of the sound at the same time. In just a moment, they locked the target and landed next to the source of the sound, one on the left and one on the right. The one who made the sound was indeed a human. He fell to the ground, facing the soil, and kept repeating a sentence, who am I? Who am I? Su Xian took a look. This guy should have been infected, but he broke into this place by chance and recovered a little. No. Lin Suiying shook her head. Once the Black Plague breaks out, it will completely bind the lifeblood of the infected. The plague is purified, and the infected are destined to die. Su Xian was puzzled. Then how did this guy survive? While the two were puzzled, they looked at the bottom of the ancient tree. There was a pit there. And in the pit, a coffin made of purified wood was buried. 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 305. Coffin. Su Xian and Lin Suiying were both surprised. Why would a coffin suddenly appear in such a place? Could it be made by the guy who lost his memory? I'll go and see. Lin Suiying walked towards the coffin, and with a light flick of the Shuiyu sword, she was about to lift the coffin lid, when the guy lying on the ground suddenly rushed over. Roar! He let out a strange roar and lay tightly on the coffin lid, as if not allowing anyone to peek into the secrets. This guy! Su Xian was shocked. The moment the man jumped up, he saw the other person's face, only a face, without facial features. It turned out to be a faceless man. Lin Suiying also noticed it. They didn't know what the faceless man who lost his memory had experienced, but from his wailing, they felt extremely sad emotional fluctuations. The faceless man had no ill will towards them, but just didn't want them to get close to the coffin. How to deal with it? The two looked at each other. They came to take away the purification wood. As long as the purification tree is taken away, the black mutants will immediately rush into the forest, and the faceless man will have no choice but to die. No way. Su Xian spread his hands helplessly. They could not give up the plan concerning the whole world for a stranger. Either kill him directly or let him fend for himself. The next action is extremely dangerous. Even if they bring the faceless man, this guy's combat power is also in danger. Alas! Lin Suiying also understood that now is not the time to be indecisive. She looked at the faceless man. You can understand what we are saying, right? Next, I will refine this tree and take it away. The black mutants will soon rush in here. If you want to live, follow us, maybe there is still a glimmer of hope. No. No. I don't want to leave here. The faceless man held the coffin tightly and was unwilling to leave. Lin Suiying frowned. Her mind penetrated into the coffin and saw a blurry scene. There was actually a woman lying in the coffin. The woman had already lost her life. Looking at the woman's body, she should have been infected with the Black Plague, but the virus faded under the effect of the purification tree, and she died here. Perhaps this woman is the reason why the faceless man can survive. Who is she? Su Xian asked. When this question was asked, the faceless man suddenly became calm, and there was a touch of tenderness in the strong sadness. Mom, Mom. Su Xian and Lin Suiying were both stunned. The woman in the coffin is the mother of the faceless man? What happened to the faceless man? The Supreme Meditation Lotus. Su Xian cast the Supreme Meditation mantra to soothe the faceless man's emotions. The latter made a strange cry, and the memories of the past emerged in his mind. Points of spiritual light emanated from the faceless man's body. Those spiritual lights formed one memory picture after another. The two were surprised. They didn't expect that the faceless man could actually manifest memory fragments. They seemed to be there. I don't know how many years ago, an ugly woman broke into this forest. When the woman came, she was already infected with the Black Plague. From some details, it can be seen that the woman is somewhat similar to the woman in the coffin. Perhaps this is not the memory of the faceless man. But the obsession left by a mother. Child, my child. Don't be afraid. Mom will protect you. The woman's belly bulged slightly. It was obvious that she was pregnant with the faceless man before entering the forest. She broke into this forest as if she had found life all of a sudden. Even if the breath of the purification tree was depriving her of her life bit by bit, her eyes still flashed with hope. The Black Plague on her body gradually faded. Before she approached the ancient tree, she lost her ability to move and could only struggle to crawl, slowly crawling forward step by step. During this process, one of her hands was always protecting her belly, comforting the unborn baby. I don't know how long she crawled. At the last moment of her life, she finally crawled under the ancient tree, and the strong power of purification made her face pale. It's okay, child. The woman whispered softly, she wanted to leave the most gentle love to her child. But she knew. For her, this was a luxury. "I'm sorry." She whispered to apologize to the child, and 2 lines of tears flowed down the mother's cheeks. Seeing this scene, the faceless man also cried miserably. As the Black Plague was completely purified, the woman turned back to human form, and her breath was exhausted to the extreme, and the child in her body was also exhausted. The woman's hands trembled, she gritted her teeth, and tried her best to condense the last vitality. The bulging belly moved at this time. She gave the last source of life to her child, and in this deadly situation, she continued a trace of life for the child. The child kicked her belly mischievously in her belly. What a lively child! Even though the pain was numb, but feeling the movement of the child, the corners of the woman's mouth still raised a gentle smile, which was her last hope as a mother. This. Su Xian wondered in his heart. Even so, a baby should not survive in such an environment, right? As he was thinking, the woman who was only breathing her last breath took out a bottle of potion from her arms, and she drank it resolutely. Ah! Then, she let out a heart-wrenching scream, and the last breath of life also disappeared in this scream. Her body stood up. It was not her who stood up again. Her eyes had lost their spirit and turned into a cold machine. Su Xian was touched. He did not expect that at the last moment, the woman actually swallowed the alchemical potion and transformed herself into a half-living alchemical doll. The child was born. For various reasons, the child was born without a face and was ugly. Perhaps he left the best face to the most gentle mother. Since the world treated him like this, he was born without a face to face all kinds of suffering in the world. Relying on the care of the alchemical doll, he could barely survive in the harsh environment. The alchemy doll taught her all kinds of knowledge. When the child was young, she even thought it was her mother. Until the child grew up, the alchemy doll also completed its mission and fell down. Seeing this, the faceless man fell into madness again. Ah! He screamed miserably. In the strong mental fluctuations, more and more strange spirits appeared around, and the range of influence became farther and farther. At this moment, the whole forest was filled with soul particles attached with obsession. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbs feed -01, container, tabula below article feed, placement, below article feed, target. Type, mix. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 306. Can it actually affect soul particles? Looking at the almost transparent soul particles filling the forest, Su Xian was quite surprised. The ability of this faceless man was quite strange. He also marveled at the love of that mother. In that situation where there was almost no way to survive, the mother actually saved the faceless man's life. During his thoughts, those soul particles became still. It was like the majestic heavy rain suddenly stopped in the sky and fell into a strange state. Ah! The faceless man let out a shrill scream again. In an instant, those still soul particles crashed into the faceless man's mind at an extremely fast speed. On the faceless face, various faces appear and change. There are ferocious monsters, panicked women, and resolute men. But they all just passed by in a flash, and in the end the faceless people were still the faceless people. What a weird ability! Lin Suiying exclaimed, he seems to have absorbed the soul particles scattered here and then strengthened himself. Is this the real reason why he can survive here? Even my soul felt the pull of that storm just now. Su Xian narrowed his eyes slightly. If he can truly adapt to his own abilities, his combat power will probably not be weaker than that of ordinary kings. Lin Suiying sighed, the word Yingyun is so difficult. Many people spend their entire lives unable to practice a secret technique that suits them. What's more, this is just an unknown ability of his, not a secret skill. When Su Xian mentioned the secret skills, he suddenly thought of something. In the super-level tutor gift package given by the system, there is a technique called Wuxinless form technique. The practice of this technique is extremely demanding, requiring you to cut off your ego and have no mind or form. Perhaps. Thinking of this, Su Xian immediately opened the eyes of the divine mentor. Data emerges. Root bone value : comprehension value : character value : compatibility with the skill mindless and formless technique 100%. Existing constitution or blood, Tongxin Mui. Suitable for physique or bloodline, the degree of compatibility with the void Dao body is 95%. Seeing this data, Su Xian was also a little confused. The last time there were so many question marks was Xiao Liugzhi's confusion, because Lao Lu belongs to an extremely special type of original spirit life, and has no roots or talents. The faceless people are even more strange, they even have no xingxing points. As far as he understood, there was only one reason for this situation, and that was that the faceless man had lost all desire for the world, including the desire to live. Perhaps the faceless man only has one thought in his heart, and that is to always be by his mother's side. This kind of thinking no longer counts as desire. She is already the entire inner world of the faceless man. What's wrong? Seeing Su Xian's abnormal expression, Lin Suiying asked in a low voice. I want to accept him as a disciple. Su Xian didn't hide it either. Accept him as a disciple, Lin Suiying was surprised. In this state, can he still listen to what we say? Is he willing to get in touch with the world? It's hard. Su Suandeo, but I think he will be willing. Lin Suiying looked at the coffin buried under the ancient tree. That's right. The faceless people want to protect their mother's body, so they have to leave here. Even without them, this place will sooner or later be destroyed by the monsters deep in the forbidden area. The purified forest gradually returned to calm. Su Xian looked at the faceless man. Leave here with us, take your mother, and leave this dark place. No. I won't leave, the faceless man made a voice. He obviously doesn't trust Su Xian. He grew up here and lived here all his life. This is the hometown where his mother was buried, and it is also his whole world. Su Xian continued, you have absorbed so many soul particles, you should have seen that this is a place of doom, and your mother died because of it. There is a better world outside, that is where your mother was born and where your mother really wants to go back. Mom, where do you want to go back? Scenes from his mother's memory flashed through the faceless man's mind. It was a world he had never seen before, and it was also the place he missed most in his mother's memory. But he was afraid, he didn't want to face that world. Because that world abandoned my mother. Only in this small world with only two people could he protect his mother. Will not be abandoned, will not be hurt. Come with us. Su Xian extended the invitation again, you understand what we are saying. Staying here will only lead to death. Regardless of whether you want to face the world or not, you should not stay here. The faceless man fell into deep thought. A human face flashed across his face again. Go. Leave this dark land. The faceless man made a painful questioning sound. This was the soul particles affecting him, and it was also his mother's obsession. As a mother, why don't you want your children to grow up safely, healthily, and happily? Struggling for a long time. The faceless man finally stood up. Maybe I should go with you. You are right. I should take my mother to see the outside world. He jumped into the pit, opened his arms, and moved the coffin made of the wood of purification out of the pit. I picked some more branches and woven them into ropes. Immediately, the faceless man knelt in front of the coffin and worshipped devoutly, Mother, I will always be by your side. After saying that, he stood up, fixed his mother's body with a braided rope, tied the coffin, and finally tied it to his back. "Are you going to carry this coffin all the time?" Lin Suiying couldn't help asking. "Yeah." The faceless man saw only a haze. Only his mother was the last meaning of his staying in this world. Su Xian was also touched, but he didn't say much. He couldn't empathize with a person who had experienced despair in the world, and no one in this world could understand the world of the faceless man. Because he has no heart. After careful perception, Su Xian saw that the faceless man had no heart in his body. He relied on the special physique Tongzin Sui circulating in his body to replace the heart, and used this substance to maintain the operation of life, which also made him completely different from normal people. Fortunately, the faceless man was willing to leave, and the two were finally able to collect the purification wood. Lin Suiying walked to the ancient tree and sat on the ground. Around her, mysterious runes loomed, the purification wood trembled, and the purification power was stripped out of the tree. In front of Lin Suiying, a huge vortex formed. It gathered all the purification power together like a whale swallowing the sea. In the center of the vortex, a touch of emerald green light was born. The purification power was continuously compressed until it reached the extreme, the vortex dissipated, the surrounding world fell into darkness, and the black plague swept in madly. "Suppress." Lin Suiying suddenly opened her eyes. An emerald green bead flew out. The black plague was instantly dispelled, and the surrounding 30 miles returned to clarity in an instant. 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 307. This thing is called the Pearl of Purification. It is also the core item used to deal with the monster deep in the forbidden area. Lin Suiying activated the purification pearl and easily opened a path. However, her expression was not good looking, because the trees in the purifying forest were too polluted, causing the effect of the purifying beads to be much smaller, only as big as a marble. According to her prediction, if the entire purification forest was refined, the purification pearl would be at least the size of a fist and could purify 100 miles radius at will. This worried her. The pearl of purification has been weakened so much, and the monsters in the depths of the forbidden area have broken free from more seals. As a result, the difficulty of this battle is more than 10 times higher than when dealing with the ice dragon. But no matter what, we have come to this point and there is no way out. The worst case scenario is to use up all your cards. After unlocking the last restriction, she had finished what she had to do. The next situation was beyond her control. Send him away first. Lin Suiying glanced at the faceless man carrying the coffin. She didn't intend to take this uncertainty with her to a place where any unknown factors could cause an accident. The only surprise in this plan was Su Xian. There won't be another one. "Are you going to cut off the source of the Black Plague?" the faceless man asked. "I think maybe I should avenge my mother." "This is not your personal hatred. Su Suandeo, we will cut off the source of the Black Plague, and you only need to live well. What you should do more is protect the life your mother left for you." The faceless man is silent. The three of them talked as they headed towards the opening on the outside. With the Pearl of Purification, their perception of the world became much clearer, they could easily find the correct location, and soon sent the faceless man to the edge of the forbidden area. Going straight ahead from here is the Dragon Kingdom's 7th line of defense base. Su Xian handed a mask to the faceless man. "Put it on, don't take it off, someone will take care of you there." The faceless man shook his head. "Can I not go to them?" Su Xian sighed in his heart. It seemed that the faceless man still couldn't accept this world. "If you don't want to contact those people, just wait here for me to come back," he warned, "but you must remember not to walk randomly, otherwise you may fall into a more dangerous situation." "Waiting for you here." The faceless man thought about it and asked a strange question. "Do you think you are my benefactor by doing this?" Then should I repay you? In the faceless man's mind, there are only the kind thoughts instilled in him by his mother. His various judgments of the world are also affected by the soul particles he absorbs. More strictly speaking, the faceless man is not a complete person. He has no mind, no form, and no complete personality. His words and deeds must be different from ordinary people. Su Xian didn't know how to answer. But he knew that in the current state of the faceless man, it was impossible to move freely in the highly controlled blue star. As long as he was discovered by the army, he would be captured. He might even be locked up as a lunatic. Su Xian also wanted to accept this guy as his disciple. One of the reasons was that it was extremely difficult to find suitable seedlings for the Wuxinless phase technique. Perhaps there was no one other than the faceless man. The second reason is that the faceless man does not have a complete personality and needs someone to guide him in shaping a new worldview. Otherwise, if the state of the faceless man continues, sooner or later he will fall into madness and become a disaster. Even being abducted by the 10,000 clans of Lulan Star is not certain. After thinking a lot, Su Xian decided to teach the faceless man the basics of the heartless no-phase technique. It would be best if he could be accepted as a disciple. If you are afraid of contact with the outside, stay here. Su Suandeo, I will teach you a skill and you can practice it here. When I come back, I will take you away with me. After I leave this place, I will find you a reasonable identity so that you can be free. Good. The faceless man doesn't want to go out. That world was too big for him. From the moment he walked out of the purified forest, a strange feeling of fear spread in his heart. Even if the world was the world that his mother cared about, he would still feel afraid. Su Xian took a step forward and pointed his finger between the faceless man's eyebrows. He passed on the basics of Wuxin Wuxiang Jutsu to the faceless man. The core secret of the Wuxinless appearance technique is only 8 words: cut off the self, there is no mind and no appearance. It is both formless and inclusive of all things. The appearance of all things in heaven and earth is my appearance, and the heart of all things in heaven and earth is not the original heart. Cutting off the ego means cutting off desires. When you live in this world not for yourself, not for profit, not for your loved ones, but only have a pure idea and no longer miss other things, then you have truly cut off your true self. It's just that it's too difficult to actually do that. In the old days, those who achieved this were called saints. In the new era, those who achieve this are called gods. Erase humanity, leaving only divinity. Of course, both saints and gods only exist in various legends and have never been seen by anyone. Perhaps the road to becoming a god is too difficult. No one has ever seen a god. They think that gods don't care about all the trivial matters in the world, so they guess that gods have no humanity left. If a person wants to become a god, he must cut off everything and only retain his divinity. Only then can he become a true god. This is the philosophy of one group of people. The Wuxin Wuxiangshu is a technique born from this concept. Because his practice is extremely demanding, it is basically impossible for normal people to adapt to this practice method. As for whether this path can be taken, it is still an unknown, and no one knows whether this concept is correct. You practice well, we are leaving. After giving the Wuxin Wuxiangshu basic chapter to the faceless man, Su Xian was also ready to leave. Wait, the faceless man stopped him. Can you give me a name? Name? Su Xian thought for a while. How about you call yourself Wuxin? Wuxin. The faceless man silently recited it, and then said, okay, I will be called Wuxin from now on. Wuxin, goodbye. Su Xian smiled, turned, and left, and rushed into the endless dark world hand in hand with Lin Suying. Feeling the departure of the two, Wuxin silently put on the mask. After carrying the huge coffin through the valley for a short distance, he found a cave and took the coffin off his back. In fact, there was one thing he wanted to do in his heart that he hadn't said. He wanted to resurrect his mother. In the countless soul particle memories, he had not found a way to revive his mother. Only by becoming a god could his mother live forever with him. Cut off the self, and have no heart or form. The form of all things in the world is my form. The heart of all things in the world is not the original heart. Countless soul particles appeared around him again. He knew that this was only the first step on a long road. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 308. The stream of light shuttled through the dark world. With the shock of the purification bead, the two of them moved much faster, marching forward all the way, killing their way into the depths of the Forbidden Land. They could faintly hear the roar from the depths of the Forbidden Land. The monster had obviously noticed their arrival, and there was no fear in the roar, but rather an inexplicable excitement. The deeper they went into the Forbidden Land, the fewer black mutants there were. Su Xian and Lin Suiying felt heavier. When they stepped into this land, they couldn't help but feel a sense of depression in their hearts. It was raining lightly in the sky at some point. It was purple rain, and when it fell on the ground, it corroded the soil on the ground, making a sizzling sound. Gusts of fishy wind blew in their faces. In the darkness ahead, a pair of blood-red eyes were looking at them. Looking closely, they saw a huge rat gnawing at the corpse. That rat was much bigger than an ordinary black rat, 2 or 3 meters long, with its front limbs raised. It could walk on 2 paws like a human. It had a scar on its eye, which was extremely hideous. Hiss. It gnawed the corpse clean, turned its head and looked at Su Xian and Lin Suiying, with greed radiating from its red eyes. Suddenly, the soil loosened. Swish. Another huge rat jumped out from the ground and pounced on Lin Suiying. Before that, the two had not felt the breath of another mutant rat at all. When they reacted, the rat had already pounced in front of Lin Suiying. Bang! A water blue mirror appeared out of thin air in the space. The mole hit it, flew backwards, and quickly fell into the ground, and its breath disappeared again. The scar rat also rushed up. Su Xian slashed with the Qinji sword, cutting the scar rat in half. Surprisingly, the scar rat that was killed turned into mucus and stuck together again. The mole rushed out again, and was cut back by a sword again. Although the combat power of these two mutant rats is not strong, their hiding and regeneration abilities are very annoying. It is stalling for time. Lin Suiying frowned and said, "The purpose of that monster is to drag us until the purification beads are consumed. I didn't expect that the source of the plague has developed to this point. Even if the other 3 monsters have servants, they are far less powerful. Let me do it." 9 layers of devouring domains unfolded around Su Xian. After so many returns, his first domain was finally filled, but the other domain still had only 2 layers, and the dark red and purple domain was obviously more difficult to improve. This time, Su Xian took the initiative to kill the scar rat. The strong devouring power made the scar rat feel uneasy. He wanted to escape, but was cut off by the 1000 machine sword. Su Xian directly opened the devouring domain. The 1000 machine sword was also absorbing the vitality of the scar rat. Only Su Xian dared to do this. If it were someone else, I'm afraid he would have been infected by the Black Plague long ago. Huh. Su Xian was surprised. The scar rat seemed to have endless energy, which could not be absorbed completely. The source of this guy's life should be deep in the forbidden area. On the other side, Lin Suiying also opened the mirror lake, forcibly trapped the mole, and began to smash the mole crazily. Come again. Su Xian was not afraid. He was full of chaotic blood, which could easily purify these plagues. Even if he absorbed more, it would not affect him. The plague and dark energy that entered his body would soon become pure tonic. This lasted for a while. The opponent seemed to be unable to hold on. The body of the scar rat shrank quickly, and the rat skin exploded with a bang. Lin Suying also relied on the large area of the mirror lake of 300 miles to make the mole know where to hide, and cut it into pieces with a sword. The raindrops in the sky were getting bigger and bigger. The fishy smell was getting stronger and stronger. The two continued to go deeper into the forbidden area. The closer they got inside, the more they could feel the rising terrifying breath. This breath is much stronger than the oppression brought by the ice dragon. It seems that it has broken free of at least half of the seal. Lin Suying said cautiously, the price paid for this battle may be much greater than before. It's okay. Su Xian smiled, we two living people can't beat a sealed monster? It's not just it that has improved, we are also. The ring is ringing with clear springs, the necklace is full of mist, and the bracelet is guided by the morning star. The three-piece set of trance is shining. Set effect, all attacks are attached with divine power. With this method, Su Xian's lethality has increased by a level when fighting against the ice dragon. Now he has the ability to break the defense against anyone. As long as he can break the defense, there is a chance to kill it with one blow. Coupled with the protective means of energy overload and Tianyunjinshin, he has many opportunities to fight for his life. No matter how powerful the monster is, it is bound. The two of them will be able to kill it together. At this moment, the system's prompt sound suddenly sounded in Su Xian's mind. Ding, your disciple Wuxin completed advanced comprehension while practicing the Wuxin Wuxiang technique, and obtained the 4 sacred beasts of the 10,000 aspects. Congratulations on triggering the 8,000-fold critical return, you have obtained the demigod level forbidden technique Daodi forbidden technique. Daodi forbidden technique, demigod level, one of the special forbidden techniques. Using this technique can devour and refine everything of the enemy, including the body, soul, domain, small world, origin, etc., and feed back to oneself. The weaker the enemy is, the higher the possibility of using the Daodi forbidden technique to devour. Tip: if the gap between the enemy and our realm is too large, the Daodi forbidden technique devours things that exceed the physical limit of the caster, and the caster may explode and die. Tip: devouring too much may cause too many impurities to accumulate in the caster's body, causing irreversible effects on the caster's foundation. Given that the host has the prototype of a chaotic body, your body will automatically purify all impurities, and you can ignore this tip. Hearing the system prompt, Su Xian was surprised. He has accepted so many disciples, but this is the first time this has happened. He has not yet formally become a disciple, but has only taught the basics. The faceless man has achieved advanced comprehension in such a short time by practicing on his own. He has realized the 4 sacred beasts among the myriad aspects of heaven and earth. It seems that the Wuxin Wuxiangshu technique is highly compatible with the faceless man. The semi-god level forbidden technique returned this time is also very suitable for Su Xian, and complements his devouring field. At the same time, as the two continued to move forward, they finally arrived at the depths of the forbidden area. The light of the purification bead suddenly became brighter, as if it was stimulated by something. Tick, tick. The sound of water dripping on the rocks came from the darkness, and it sounded like the heartbeat of some creature, which was quite creepy. A black fluid was spreading on the ground. Those fluids gradually merged and turned into a monster with a narrow body, a pointed face, and blood-red pupils. Its body composed of fluid was still twisting irregularly and unpredictable. It exuded a deep and terrifying breath. Looking at this monster, Su Xian and Lin Suying both felt a chill. A strange laugh echoed in the forbidden area. You. Finally here. I want you to be the most perfect masterpiece in this grand baptism. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 309. Compared to the insect king of the sorrowful cave, the evil dragon of the infinite altar, and the ice dragon of the absolute frozen ground. The monster of the source of the plague is not that huge. It is just a mass of black fluid. A black fluid that can change into any form. Lin Suying looked at the creepy fluid monster in front of her, and her hand holding the water moon sword was shaking. She didn't expect that the monster's body had almost broken out of the seal. Now, the only thing suppressed in the seal is probably the monster's life core. If it is delayed for a while, I am afraid that its life core will break out of the seal. I feel your fear. The fluid monster laughed creepily. Are you afraid? Afraid that if you fail, the whole world will become my black empire? Right. Its voice seemed to affect people's souls. The fear in Lin Suying's heart continued to deepen. Buzz. At this moment, the water moon sword made a buzzing sound, and Lin Suying suddenly woke up. Su Xian stood there, motionless. His bracelet flashed with light, the mythical effect of the guidance of the morning star, insight into weaknesses. His eyes swept over the fluid. He found that the fluid monster itself had no weaknesses, only the vague direction told it that the weakness of the fluid was in the life core, such as the seal. Only by breaking the life core can this fluid monster be completely destroyed. Hey, big liar! A voice sounded in Su Xian's heart. Apophyse. Su Xian just wanted to trick Apophyse to come out to work, but he didn't expect this guy to take the initiative to show up. This is the first time. Sure enough, as long as the female spirit is controlled once, she will slowly become active. This monster is weird. Apophyse said, it has that kind of power on its body. In your words, it should be called the power of the messenger of God. The power of the messenger of God. Su Xian was shocked. The power of the messenger of God did not appear in the previous 3 forbidden areas. How could it appear here? Is it because the seal is loose? He still doesn't know how the 4 forbidden areas were formed, and who imprisoned these monsters that neither world recognizes. If you have to give an answer, it can only be the gods who only exist in legends but have demonstrated their power in the world. Perhaps the fusion of the 2 worlds is a game between gods from beginning to end. Anyway, you have to be careful. Apophyse reminded, this is the first time I feel so clearly the power that is superior to the magic sword itself. This time, I may really die. I understand. Su Xian made a judgment in his heart. Come on, help me again. Okay. Apophyse surprisingly did not shirk. Since the last time Su Xian suppressed 2 demigods alone in Dingai King City, the grievance in her heart has dissipated. Flowing star meteor knife in the left hand, magic sword in the right hand. 1,000 machine wings behind the back. Double domains unfolded. Facing the black fluid, Su Xian showed his strongest posture as soon as he came up. Lin Suying tied her hair tightly and tore open the sleeve of her right arm. Her arms were exposed as white as jade. Her sleeves were torn into a rope, and she wrapped her palms and the hilt of the Shuiyu sword together, layer by layer, to her wrists. There were 4 runes flashing on her forearms. If you look closely, you will find that the images of the 4 runes are very similar to the structures of the 4 forbidden areas. Mirror Lake 300 miles. Phantom Moon Heaven and Earth. Under her feet, the calm and beautiful lake slowly unfolded, opening up a layer of bright pure land in the dark world. Only this time, not only the fluid monster entered the mirror lake, but Su Xian was also pulled into it. Stepping on the lake, circles of ripples spread. Su Xian could feel a gentle sword intent protecting his body. This sword intent protecting his body was not weaker than the power of the black fluid. He turned his head and looked at Lin Suying. The latter was also looking at him. The 2 smiled at each other, as if to say, open the cheat? Who can't? The next moment, the 2 rushed towards the black fluid at the same time. The speed of the black fluid was also extremely fast, turning into a black whirlwind that swept over. The shadows in the sky intertwined, and the dark light flickered. Fluids continued to splash down from the sky, and those fluids attached to the surrounding land, slowly wriggling, and turned into tiny fluid monsters. The sword shadows suspended on the mirror lake shattered one by one. Thousands of huge waves were stirred up on the lake. The speed of the three people's fight was so fast that it affected the void. Su Xian and Lin Suiying had been trying to get closer to the sealed place that sealed the life source of the black fluid during the battle, but the monster also noticed their intentions and kept stopping them. The black fluid was not afraid of death at all. It was stronger than them and kept fighting for its life. Even if the two of them joined forces, they could not break through. Su Xian had not yet used the divine blessing state of the trance state. That state could only last for 5 minutes, which was also the 5 minutes when he had the strongest lethality. He must use it at the right time. Once the opportunity was missed, his role in this battle would be infinitely reduced. Su Xian, I'll cover you as you rush over. Lin Suiying's voice rang in Su Xian's heart. One of the 4 runes on her arm burst into brilliant light. Go. Lin Suiying's speed reached the extreme at that moment. She flashed over the black fluid and waved the water moon sword lightly. Tens of thousands of sword shadows whistled out. The black fluid was unable to react and was instantly cut into pieces. Return to 1. Lin Suiying waved her hand again, and thousands of sword shadows merged into one, breaking the black fluid that wanted to gather into countless tiny dust particles. After performing this move, a rune on Lin Suiying's arm quickly dimmed. Her face showed an unhealthy red, and soon turned pale. Huh! She gasped heavily, and her chest fluctuated violently. Just one sword seemed to have exhausted her strength. At this time, Su Xian had also rushed towards the place where the origin of life was sealed. At this time, the tiny fluid squirming on the ground suddenly turned into a beam of light. The dense and tiny beams of light shot directly at Su Xian, blocking his way. When those beams of light gathered together, they combined into a new fluid monster. But Su Xian clearly felt that in this rapid combination mode, a part of the black fluid completely disappeared. In other words, these things are not immortal. Perhaps the best way to destroy them is to let them devour each other in this rapid combination, and then continuously weaken the combat power of the fluid. Until the fluid can no longer stop itself from approaching the sealed source of life. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 310. Rings, bracelets, and necklaces glow simultaneously. The effect of the 3-piece set of Trance Realm is activated. God bless you. Su Xian thought silently in his heart, and the divine blessing state was activated instantly. Aha! The 2 swords were slashed out. The black fluid was instantly chopped into pieces. Faintly, Su Xian seemed to be able to hear the roar of the monster. Being chopped into pieces by the sword with the power of God, the combination speed of the black fluid was indeed much slower. If they want to recover quickly, they must continue to devour each other. 5 minutes of divine blessing were enough for Su Xian to swing thousands of swords. The black fluid was continuously chopped into pieces. Reorganization. Break again. Under constant wear and tear, the power of the black fluid becomes weaker and weaker. It seemed angry. The distant dark space roared, and the black plague from the entire forbidden area gathered towards this place. The power of the black fluid actually began to grow stronger again. Su Xian realized something was wrong. He waited slightly and went to the core of the seal again. This time he simply gave up his defense. The black fluid turned into a whirlwind and struck. The golden body of destiny starts. The golden light swayed through the darkness, and Su Xian shined in it. Taking this opportunity, Su Xian once again narrowed the distance to the core of the seal. At this moment, the black fluid suddenly exploded. It no longer pursued, but turned into countless tiny particles. Endless particles trembled simultaneously. Buzz. Weird magic sounds echoed. Su Xian only felt that his consciousness was in a trance for a moment. I don't know when a black wind blew around me. GGG. You can't kill me. You will eventually become my masterpiece. Weird laughter echoed, and invisible spiritual shock waves collided in the cave with the rotation of the black wind. Noisy. On Lin Suiying's arm, the second rune lit up. She walked in the air, and waves rippled under her feet, as if she were stepping barefoot on a calm lake. In just a few steps, she walked to Su Xian's side, gently held Su Xian's hand. Close your eyes and follow my guidance. She threw the purification pearl into the air. Bang! The purification pearl exploded. The majestic power of purification rolled away, and Lin Suiying pulled Su Xian and rushed back. Su Xian was puzzled. Is this the wrong direction? Lin Suiying did not explain, but kept running back. The demonic sound echoing in the forbidden area suddenly changed again. Lin Suiying suddenly changed direction and continued running. Is there any magic to deal with this monster? Su Xian couldn't understand. But the demonic sound was indeed terrifying, and even though he was protected by the Supreme Serenity Lotus, he was still affected. The Black Fluids method is obviously more than just infinite division. The two of them just shuttled back and forth in the restricted area. It wasn't until the demonic sound gradually weakened that Lin Suiying finally stopped. At the same time, the second rune on her arm also dimmed. What just happened? It has the ability to perceive chaos. Lin Suiying explained, no matter how strong your mental power is, you cannot resist this state. It affects the entire world and can only be avoided through special methods. It's really difficult. Su Xian actually didn't expect to be able to deal with the black fluid so easily. After all, it took so much effort to kill the ice dragon. Not to mention the black fluid monster that has broken free of most of its seals. I just used the mirror flower water moon technique on myself, Lin Suiying said. Only in this state of the phantom sword can we not be affected by its chaotic perception. You hypnotize yourself. It's not considered hypnosis. Lin Suiying said, in that state, I just lost the ability to attack the enemy in a targeted manner, but my awareness of self-protection still exists. While the two were talking, the black fluid had reorganized again. It's still the big rat with a long and narrow body and a tapered face. Through the delay of the chaotic black wind and magic sound, it returned to its original form, and because it absorbed a large amount of black plague in the forbidden area, its damaged fluids were also replenished. If they continue to be consumed like this, they may not be able to hold on anymore. Su Xian saw that the blue gauze wrapped around Lin Suiying's arm was stained red with blood, and her breath became unstable. Using the power of those four strange runes obviously had a big impact on Lin Suiying. This is probably Su Ying's trump card. Su Xian always knew that his wife was still hiding, otherwise he would not have the courage to challenge the four forbidden areas alone. But continuing to waste it like this is still not an option. The divine state of trance has disappeared. Su Xian's lethality dropped significantly. Facing the black fluid and being unable to kill with one hit, skills such as the Golden Body of Fortune and the Soul Scalpel, which are suitable for explosive duels, are basically useless. Su Xian thought that the only thing that could deal with the black fluid at present was probably the access control technique he had just obtained. Dowdy Forbidden Technique. It's just that the black fluid is much stronger than him, and the backlash of not being swallowed but being exploded is probably not something he can bear. The 9-level devouring realm is opened. The Dowdy Forbidden Technique operates. Behind Su Xian, a huge alien beast appeared. Its shape is like a sheep body with a human face, eyes under the armpits, and tiger teeth and human hands. It looks extremely terrifying. The third rune also lit up on Lin Suiying's arm. Blood dripped down the Shuiyu sword. Mirror lake spreads out beneath your feet. The blood fell in the middle of the beautiful sword lake. Tick. Ripples spread out, and the mirror lake was gradually stained red with blood. The calm lake surface became violent at this moment. She waved her sword, and huge waves roared up behind her. The two rushed forward at the same time. This time, Lin Suiying's speed was much faster than Su Xian, and the water moon sword was more fierce than ever before. The light blue sword intent precipitated into dark blue. There was also a hint of scarlet in the feint. The swordsmanship was no longer as gentle as before, but was filled with violent killing intent. That feeling. It even made Su Xian feel that Suiying at this time was better than King Wuan at his peak. The sword intent filled the sky. The waves rolled wildly. The world occupied by the Black Plague was forcibly dispelled, and the two formed a confrontation. Boom! Taking this opportunity, Su Xian's body was shining with silver light, and he forcibly broke through the blockade. It was just that his spirit could not sense and enter the sealed place, otherwise he could be teleported to the life source of the Black Plague through the jump. The black fluid split apart instantly, blocking Su Xian again. Behind Su Xian, the Dowdy Phantom opened its bloody mouth and bit the split black fluid fiercely. At that moment, every cell in Su Xian's body seemed to have turned into a ferocious beast, uncontrollably trying to tear his body apart. The Dowdy Phantom roared. Sure enough, it was too much of a stretch to devour an existence of this level. But now Su Xian had no way out, so he could only use all his strength to urge the Dowdy Phantom to refine it. Lin Suiying also saw the state of Su Xian. Her pupils also turned into aqua blue. There were ripples in her eyes. The third rune continued to release light, and the sword intent of the mirror flower and water moon became more and more vast. She was exerting all her strength to help Su Xian buy time. The Dowdy Phantom finally completely refined part of the black fluid, and at the same time, Su Xian was also fed back, and the second field was gradually filled. The black fluid seemed to realize something and became violent. His immortal fluid clone was completely devoured. Is that human race not even afraid of the source of the plague?